Okay, drafting students, here we go. It's in the start of week 3 for you guys. We are well into our Autodesk AutoCAD web application, and we're going to continue on with our lessons here. And today we're going to cover basic shapes and object snaps. So I want to do a quick review, and then we'll jump into our lesson for the day. So I am going to take my eyes off the camera for a second. I'm going to come over here and navigate my way around our modeling screen. So you guys can see the desktop, and you can see my picture over there in the upper right-hand corner. Um, Here's our features tab. Once again, we have our different views. Here's our drawing space view that we're currently in. It's a blank document right now. We have our different layout views. So this is for when we go to print, and we will be discussing this later in the quarter. Different properties, our layers view. Those are the 3 tabs we're going to be working with the most. I'm going to hop back into the model view. And if you look at this command palette down here at the bottom, you have the 3 tabs, our draw, our annotate, and our modify tabs. Last week we worked with just drawing lines and modifying those lines by trimming them. Today I'm going to show you a few different shapes. So our first shape that we're going to work with today is a rectangle, and it's very similar to the absolute, relative, and polar coordinate entry that we showed you with the lines, except for these are basic shapes. So if I just indiscriminately click somewhere in space with the rectangle command highlighted in our command bar, we're in the rectangle tool, and it asks us a prompt. It says specify the first corner. So once again, just like the lines, I can click anywhere and I can drag and drop. And you can see the dynamic input highlighted for the width and the height change as I move it around. So in this one, I'm just going to click and I'm going to drop it. And you have your first basic shape. Once again, to delete, you can do a crossing window to the left, and that picks up the whole item. If you do a crossing window to the right, you have to enclose the whole item. So that's how you do that. I'm going to delete that one. I'm going to come back over here to the rectangle command. It also says in the command line, specify your first point. And this time, because we're familiar with the polar coordinates and the Cartesian grid that we're working on, I can put in an entry point of an x coordinate. Let's just start with 1200 on the x-axis and 1200 on the y-axis, and let's see where that point goes. Okay, right there. Perfect. So we have our first point on the rectangle at 1200x and 1200y. And once again, I could drag and drop it, but for the sake of this lesson, I want to show you guys that you can also do the dynamic input, and that gives you exact distances that you specify in these input boxes. So for the width of this rectangle, I will put in 5,000 units, and I will tab over to specify the height, and I will specify the height at 2,500 units and push enter, and it forms your rectangle. I'm going to leave that up there for now, and I'm going to pan over a little bit, and I will show you guys the circle command. And down here in the bottom, it gives you a couple of choices for your circle: a 3-point, a 2-point, and a tangent radius type circle. So the first circle I'm going to show you is just a simple center drag and click circle. So you specify the first point. I will click indiscriminately out here, just anywhere in the modeling space. I'll just go right here for now. And you can see as I click, it pins the center point, and it lets me drag and drop however large or small I want the circle. And the figure you're seeing change is the radius. So I will just drag one out and I will drop it. And that's our first circle. And if I go back into the circle command, and to get back into it, if you all remember, you can just push the return button, and the last tool you use comes back up in the command line. I'm going to pan over and give myself some more room. And this time I will do a 2-point circle. So if I click on 2-point circle, It asks me to specify the first point and the circle's diameter. So let's say I want to make the circle here and I want to go over a certain distance. I can, any way you go here is going to be radius again. And I can click and drop, or I can enter a certain radius. And I can say I want to make it a 2500 radius, and I click enter, and it makes a 2500 radius. Although I believe that is not a radius, a diameter. So the specify second endpoint of circle's diameter. So yeah, that one is a diameter one. You're stretching from one side of the circle to the other, as opposed to the first one where you stretch from the center point to one side. And now I will show you the circle command again, and we can do a 3-point circle. I will click a 3-point circle. I will come out here in space, and I can click here, I can click here, and I can click there. And basically what the 3-point circle is a circle that is defined by 3 points you choose. So I picked here, here, and here. And the final circle command that we have is a tangent, tangent, radius. So the tangent between two objects is the closest point between those two objects. So if I come over here and I start to hover near, the tangent symbol comes up, and you can see anywhere I click along this circle, it'll work in conjunction with this circle where the tangent is, and you can see that little tangent symbol start to highlight as I get close. So I will click here, and I will click here, and it asks me to specify a radius. So I will say a radius of 800 units, and you can see it populate itself down in the command line at the bottom. And I push enter, and there. It attaches itself to the two tangents, the two closest points between these two circles. Being able to fit in, the other criteria is being able to fit in the 800 unit circle there itself. Okay, so we have a few basic shapes. And I also would like to introduce the object snaps in this video. And if I come over here and I click, it shows you all the different object snaps. So I can snap a line or a circle or a rectangle or an arc or one of our P lines, which we'll get to in a future video. But for this video, I'm showing how to snap these objects together. So we have the endpoint snapped, we have the midpoint snapped, intersection snapped, extension snapped, center snapped, tangent snapped, and quadrant snapped. So if I come over here to, let's just say, another circle command, and I want to hover towards the center, or I got to click on the circle. Now I'm in the circle command, and I want to hover. It highlights and it snaps to the center of that circle, because if we come back over here to the Object Snap tab, you can see that the center snap is on. I also have a midpoint on, have an endpoint on, have intersection on, so I'll cycle through a couple of those. If I hover near the endpoint of one of those lines, it shows me there. If I go to the midpoint area, it's represented with a triangle there, so I could put a circle there. If I come over here, pan a little bit and come over, it also shows me the midpoint there, an endpoint there. Now let's see, does this one give me an intersection? Yep, so these two intersect each other. They touch, which forms an intersection. So that's an example of something I can pin the other circle to or snap it to. There's another intersection. And now an interesting one that I also want you to be aware of. So let's see, just to review, we went over the endpoint, the midpoint, the intersection. You guys saw the center. So how about tangent and quadrant? We did see the tangent snap when we were in the tangent radius circle. So the quadrant snap, I think you guys can probably guess what a quadrant is. We have a top quadrant represented by a diamond, a right one, a bottom one, and a left one. These are exclusive to the circles, and you'll be snapping to those. So for instance, I'm still in the circle command and I want to snap to one of the quadrants. I can snap there and I can drag and drop. And this time I can use my dynamic input and say I want my circle to be 1200 units radius, specify radius or circle or diameter, and I said that it is 1200 units. So there, and I can come over here, I can hit the return button, gets me back into the circle command, and I can, let's say, snap a circle to the midpoint, and I'm stretching the radius out to be 1000, and click enter. Actually, I only got that one to be 100. I missed a 0, so you can tell that it's a much smaller radius circle, but you can zoom in and still see it there. Okay. And I will show you guys what it looks like with the lines as well. So let's say I want to attach a line to the endpoint. I can do that. I can come over here and find the quadrant, and it highlights it and it shows it there. I can hit the center point of that circle. It says center. I can do the tangent. You can see the tangent line hover up. So let's just try a tangent, and it takes the closest point to that circle. So it comes off of the edge closest to that point of the circle that is tangent to the direction of the line. So that is a really quick introduction to my basic shapes and object snaps, and we will continue on with more lessons soon. Thank you, and begin practicing.